Hi there, my name is David Batsoffen and I host a travel blog called Travel and Things. And today I'm talking to a counseling psychologist. Her name is Venise Germanos. Venise, welcome to you. Thanks for joining me in conversation with.
Well, thank you so much, David, for having me this morning. It really is such a pleasure to be here to connect with you in a different way as well through this online format.
Now, recently you and I chatted about the 5 stages of grief versus lockdown. But today what I would like to focus on is what happens when lockdown is unlocked, when we are free to go back to the 26th of March, basically, and pick up our lives all over again, whatever is left of our lives as we find ourselves currently. Introverts, extroverts, people that are happy to have been at home, people who don't want to go out anymore. How do we deal with this?
Yeah, like you say, I think there's going to be so many different types of ways of dealing with things because it depends also on your personality in terms of how you engage with people in general and how you engage with situations, how you cope with situations. We all have different coping mechanisms when it comes to this, and especially something that is unprecedented as this. I don't think many of us have had that opportunity in that way to actually be exposed to a situation like this. So it's all going to be fairly new for each of us coming out of this type of situation, like you say. And it's about how we adjust to it. And there will certainly be an adjustment period. I don't know if it's something that other people have been aware of, or, I'm sure in some degree, it's not something I've chatted to, if I can say it that way, chatted to somebody else about. But I noticed that even when we went into lockdown, there was a period of adjustment of a couple of weeks and people almost created a new norm. So you now got used to what it was like to actually go out and to wear a mask and to protect yourself and social distance and that kind of thing. So I would imagine in the same way, as soon as that lockdown says is no more, we will have a similar period of adjustment in terms of will we be okay or confident enough or calm enough to even go out into that space where we will be comfortable to see other people or be close to other people. I think that will be one of the biggest things is how we engage with other people in our interactions in general.
I am an extrovert. By my very nature, the very nature of my job makes me that because I'm always looking for stories or people to talk to. You well know I climbed onto a vehicle with you and your parents at a game lodge, and all of a sudden we were the best of friends, and we've kept in contact ever since. If I was introvert, I would have just sat on the vehicle quietly, minded my own business, and we would never have spoken. But even I'm battling at the moment. I find that I'm not going out as much as I need to. I've realized that I don't need to shop every day.
Yeah.
I'm missing coffee with my friends, but we're able to do that online, but it's not the same. And then when I do go out, I found that I want to come home. I start getting edgy. I invariably come home with a headache. And I
Yes.
don't know if that's just stress from one. I'm allowed out, but I don't know if I actually want to be out. And I'm sort of scared that when that level 1 is attained or post level 1, and the sort of run forest run is available to us, that I can only speak for myself, that I won't necessarily want to run straight away. There's going to be, as you say, a time of adjustment, which is going to be difficult in itself. And there again, you may work through anger and depression and acceptance before saying, all right, I can step out and pick up from the 26th of March, and then let whatever is left of 2020, we'll deal with as and when.
Absolutely. If I can speak back to even what you were saying, is often if I go out into either the shop where the shopping mall is, or I try not to do it, I suppose, as often these days either. Or where there's a few more people around, like one of the supermarkets, I also invariably come back with a headache. And I often think it's because the stress is almost palpable. What you're feeling, the stress of the people that are working there, the stress of the people running around just to simply get what they need and to run out, and one's own stress at the same time. So you often, I think it starts to come out in those physical symptoms that we have, even of the headaches, the tiredness. It's hard because, you know, I remembered before the lockdown even happened, I remember standing in a queue at one of the supermarkets, and I sneezed, and the looks that I got, I think, were like, you know, this hectic threat, you know, and it's that kind of thing. I think is that if coming from a fear sort of space, is that people will still be looking from that end as other people are somewhat threatening. So I don't think we will necessarily just go straight back into it, like you said, when the lockdown now is freed in that way, is that we'll just go back into our everyday sort of lives. It will certainly take a period of adjustment before we become comfortable enough to even, if I can put it, trust other people with that. Because I think there's so many different things that have come up as reflections over this period of time, even about how we do engage naturally with other people. You know, do I have to be careful about how this one, do they wash their hands? Do they, you know, look after themselves, etc.? Do I need to be aware of whether this person seeks assistance if they do have COVID-19, you know, when it comes to that? I think so many people are scared to even become one of the statistics when it, you know, so it's yeah, it's a lot of things that we're having to deal with on a mental level, an emotional level, a physical level, to try and even begin to understand.
Because we also now have the prefects, those people that go out every day and try and catch people out for whatever reason. And then they're all over social media. I saw somebody walking with no mask. I saw this, I saw that. Or even worse, when they report them to the police. Now, for those people, post-lockdown is going to be a whole different kettle of fish. When they go, I was a prefect, oh no, I'm no longer a prefect. Nobody cares about. So I now have no relevance anymore, because whatever relevance I thought I had or I gave myself during lockdown, that rug has now been whipped out from underneath my feet. And I've just gone back to being plain old John or Sally, who has absolutely no input into anything. So they also have issues to deal with now, I'm sure.
Oh, sure, but I don't doubt that they wouldn't carry out that same pattern with something else. You know, I think those patterns come up usually because that's our response also to fear, is to naturally kind of watch out for other people or become almost like the traffic cop in that sense. But I usually think that comes often from a place of fear, because it's like, well, why are they also allowed to do those things and I'm not allowed to do it? So I'm, you know, going to try and stop them from doing it. Because it's a fear thing, you know. What if that's now increasing the number of figures when it comes to this COVID-19, and it's going to create greater restrictions? I'm doing my part, why isn't everybody else doing their part, type of scenario, you know. So it's, but like I say, I don't doubt that they'll find a similar way to go out and do that. I do think it's quite sad if people do have to create that prejudgment of others also, because you don't know actually what's going on in that other person's life. If I've heard, you know, a friend of mine gave birth, for example, not so long ago, and for her to have to be restricted to exercise up until 9 in the morning, just it becomes a massive struggle, because she's got a little one now at home that she has to think about. Doesn't that now naturally create greater harm for her family when she's restricted to have to go out in the cold? To exercise, you know, when it comes to aspects that we don't take the time often enough to actually think about what might be happening on the other side of the story. We jump very quickly to a judgment because, and like I say, I often think that's related to the fear that we're experiencing.
It's like road rage incidents. Road rage is never about that incident. It's the lead up to the blowout that happens. And you can slip into it so easily, Venise, because I know I've found, you know, you go to the shops, there's somebody who's not wearing a mask or who's come to those early morning shoppings. Because I'm a pensioner, the one upside is I can go and shop early on a Wednesday morning. But then Granny arrives with kids in tow. And you sort of go, no, that's not the object of the exercise. I'm sorry. I don't want them to be exposed to me, and I don't want to be exposed to them. And it's
Sure.
sort of on the tip of your tongue to say something, and then you go, I don't know why the kids are with it. Maybe
Mm,
mom's had to go back to work, preschool isn't open, so they've got to
yeah.
be with granny. And this is how it works. She has to come and shop, and she has to bring them with. So zip your lip, David, and don't be judgmental. Walk away, Renee, basically.
Yeah. It can be quite a challenge. You know, I still
Yeah.
think in some ways we need to allow our voices to be heard, but it doesn't necessarily mean I have to go up to the granny to ask her what's going on, you know, from that end. But it's more the sense of recognizing that that's our own emotions that are also coming to the surface, is, you know, what's kind of going on in terms of I am also fearful about being exposed at the same time because I don't know what to expect. People are saying so many different things also about what happens through this contraction of COVID-19, whether it is that you end up in hospital, whether you self-isolate at home. Some people don't experience any symptoms. Some people have very severe symptoms. So, you know, I think that also adds to it in terms of the uncertainty and seeing other people as a threat ultimately. Is that if I'm exposing myself, and especially to a granny or a young child, in terms of exposing to the COVID-19, you know, that obviously becomes something that we become way more fearful of. But like you say, is we don't often take the time. We immediately react to emotions. And it's about, like you said, if I take a moment to actually check in with that emotion, I can then respond to my emotion rather than react. And that
So,
is what makes it perhaps easier.
so to
Yeah.
wrap up, are there any suggestions that you could make to people that when that number happens, when our president comes out of hiding wherever he is and he goes, guys, it's the 26th of March. I wish you all the very best. Thank you for the last X number of months. Off you go. What do we do?
Well, certainly, I think it's about taking your time and being as compassionate to self and to other people as possible. And that can often also be quite a challenge, but it's allowing the adjustment period, that there are going to be a number of different emotions. And if you need some support around that, is talk to people. Talk to people that you trust. Talk to professionals if you need to. Talk to, you know, somebody that you can actually share with what's happening for you, that you can create a bit of a supportive structure to help you adjust to that period, because it will certainly be more of an adjustment. And I imagine more people will stay even within the lockdown scenario for a little while longer before venturing out to major events. Those are, I think, probably going to be the ones that will take the longest to kind of come back to. Yet I know that there'll be a lot of people that are going to be missing those kinds of things, big events. People will be missing concerts and sporting events and, you know, being able to do those kind of things, and are really waiting and edging to kind of go back to them. So it's certainly something for us, is just to be aware of self-care. I think that's the biggest thing, is what are the things that you need to do for self-care? What are the things that you need to do to actually look after yourself and your family? You know, how can you best suit and connect with yourself, and take things more purposefully, if I can put it that way.
Great stuff. Venise, before I let you go, if people have watched this, have liked what you said, how do they find you?
Well, they can definitely Google. I don't have a website as yet, but that's in the works at this stage. But if they would like to make contact with me, I'd happily invite a phone call, or if you want to set up an appointment or things on that end, you can email me, or my contact number is readily available on Google if you Google me.
Great stuff. I've been in conversation with a counseling psychologist. It's Venise Germanos. Venise, thank you once again for chatting with me.
Thank you so very much, David, for the experience this morning. I really, really appreciated the time and the opportunity to be able to share. It's such a privilege. So thank you so very, very much. And I hope that what we've shared this morning, thank you for offering that also for your viewers, but I hope what we've also said and spoken about is something that will benefit people.